Medianoche.
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 Podcast.
Medianoche.
Podcast.
Medianoche.
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 Podcast.
Mic check. 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Your mic sound good?
Yo. I don't hear shit though.
Alright, I do.
I don't hear anything. There we go.
Alright. Welcome back, y'all. Busy day today. Welcome back to the Medianoche podcast. This is episode 5. And I'm like actually pretty excited about this episode because the homie I got here is well, to me he's an OG in the scene. Yo, I got my man Shottie here. Shottie, what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Yo, tell me who spit this bar. You ready?
Go ahead.
Nigga, I burn so many trees before I get in the booth. I get death threats from environmentalist groups. I only break cheddar with crew. Some. I gotta lay on my stomach just to level with you.
That's what's up. That's old, man.
Let me tell you, bro.
That's old, bro.
Like, I was waiting till we get on the mic so I can tell this to you. But, like, out of all the MCs in Miami that I grew up listening to and looking up to, like, you are, like, bro, you already know, man. You're hands down my favorite, like, wordsmith, you know, in Miami. You know what I'm saying?
That's an honor, bro. For real, man. Straight up.
I'm not even, no exaggeration. I'm not trying to, this is just, I'm being A1. You get me?
Word.
When I used to rock with Rev, fresh out of high school, and you were in ID4, you know, with Lil Man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like y'all were just so on another, over there somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Compared to what everyone else was doing in Miami. And, like, I'm not gonna lie, bro, like, the shit that y'all did with Rev back in the day, I felt like was so underappreciated in the overall just scene that we had at the time because it was so lyrically above average.
Yeah. And I feel like Rev was on that level even at that young age, which is crazy too, man. Like, Rev was super ahead of his time at that time, bro.
He was, man.
I think he was like 17 or some shit like that when we did that track, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, like, would you mind, not only for the listeners, but for me too, now that we're having this conversation, like, would you mind just kind of giving me a quick little breakdown of how long you've been, like, rhyming or whatever, and then we'll just kind of go from there?
Well, yeah, rhyming, I've been rhyming since, like, almost as long as I could remember, bro. So, you know, when I started taking it seriously was, I think, right after high school. Like, I did my first, like, studio song. It was on prom night, actually. I happened to get some studio time or whatever with another group that was inviting me on their song. And that was like my first taste of the studio. So that was right at the end of high school. So after high school is when I really started getting it, taking it serious. We met Pro. Like, I had already been rapping with Manny Littles, you know. He's always been my boy and shit. But we never really started, you know, turning it into a thing, conceptualizing the name, everything until like after high school. So, bro, I've been rapping for like 20 years, man. Doing this shit for a long time, bro.
You dropped this track like not even too long ago, and it's like just good old Shottie. You know what I'm saying? Like,
which one?
It was just I don't know if maybe it was I can't remember the name of it, but I remember like you
Can't Stop Myself.
You were a feature.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
With
My
Garcia,
bad.
I think it was with Garcia and Scam.
I think it was with Garcia, yeah. And your verse, and it's like, because the thing is that there's a lot of MCs that they don't really have a distinct voice. You know, they get on the track, you don't really know it's them unless if you read who's on the track. But with you, it's like, I know that it's Shottie the moment you get in, you know?
Yo, and I don't take that shit for granted either, man. When you tell me that, you know what I mean? Or when you know, someone else tells me that my shit has any kind of an impact, you know? Like, I don't take that shit for granted. Like, especially, and this is not even to, like, suck up or nothing, but, like, when a dope rapper tells you that, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of like an ill feeling. You, like, it's kind of hard to even, like, process it in a way, you know what I mean? When, like, someone that's actually dope with it and you know, tells you that they actually took some kind of inspiration from what you did. So, yeah, for real, man, I really, really appreciate that shit, bro.
Word, man. And where we are right now, and you mentioned Little Man, like, one of my favorite lines that he said, he goes, man, if I don't got respect in your hood, I must have sliced the Adam's apple out your neck of the woods. It's like,
bro, let me tell you,
cold.
Littles is the most underrated rapper I've ever met in my life, bro. Like it kind of angers me a little bit when like we would show the ID4 shit, and for some reason or another, I would get more attention. You know what I'm saying? And that ain't even on some ego shit, but like that shit used to like frustrate me for real, man.
Because you want your homie to get his shine too, because you see it.
Right. I see it, and like I see it in the result, and I see it in the studio too. Like he's really kind of the only person that like made me nervous and shit. You know what I mean? Like he'd drop his shit, and I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta contend with that. So yeah, man, you talk about like iron sharpens iron. That was a real example of that shit, man.
Word, man. I mean, like, so when you see, how do you feel about the current landscape of like Miami hip hop now in comparison to back when the 305.com had the forum, and back when you was really pushing like eargasm and all that? Like, how do you feel about then in comparison to now? Or vice versa.
Well, it's like the forum back then was a necessity, right? Like we didn't have the social media, so we needed a hub. Everybody needed one place to congregate and shit. So that's kind of what made it like special at the time, and so it's hard to compare now to then because you can't really recreate that certain like chemistry that it had at that stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's healthy, man. I think with like you making music, I really like Cairo shit. Like there's a few cats that I really like out here, bro. Like but to me, it's like I'd like to see the scene kind of evolve a little bit from like and I have seen it, but like away from just like 305, this and everything is like 305, and like that's what I like so much about what you're doing is like your shit is personal, man. It's unique to you, and I felt like when you say that like we had our own voice or whatever as ID4, I feel like that's what it was. Everybody was doing the 305 South Side. This is where we from. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of just picked that lane and ran with it. And we were trying to do something completely different. So, and I still see that a little bit in the Miami local scene. So I wish we would just like evolve past that. Like leave. It's cool to rep where you're from. That's not what I'm saying. You feel me? Like it's cool to rep where you're from, but you gotta evolve a little bit, man.
Like don't let it anchor you down,
right, to
like what you can truly be. Where like I was talking about it with I think it was, who was it, with Ghost episode 2, when it was like, yeah, you're from Miami, but the music you make doesn't sound like typical Miami hip hop, but you're from here and you make hip hop, so the shit you make is Miami hip hop.
Yeah, it doesn't make you any less Miami, but I don't gotta scream Miami in 305 every 5 bars to be from Miami. This is where I grew up. This is what informs who I am. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna hear the Miami shit just through me naturally, but
whenever I hear that like repetitive Miami like representation, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. And like you want to like be supportive because these guys are doing what they love, but like I just don't see myself really enjoying that music if like outside of that the 10 minutes that they show me that shit in the studio. You know, it's just not for me personally.
Yeah. Well, your shit is like the complete other way, in my opinion. Like your shit is deeply personal in a way that like a lot of my music isn't. You know what I mean? So like that's something I really like about your shit, man. Your shit is like every single song, dude, is like on some personal, like autobiographical type.
It really is
type shit. Where like as you know, with the Shottie shit, sometimes I jump into, I don't want to say a character, but like I let the ego speak. You know what I'm saying? Like you let the id just go or whatever, and that's kind of like what Shottie music ends up being a lot of the time, is just me fucking going unhinged and shit. Whereas I think you like reach deep and you really like reveal yourself. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I do that as much in my music and shit. And that's something I've tried to evolve into.
You know, but I would kind of chalk that up to like maybe MCs that I grew up listening to, that they were also on that autobiographical, vulnerable, you know, subject matter where you kind of wear these things on your sleeve instead of being so like all this machismo, which is still good. There's a duality, right? You know, like to me, okay, like someone like a Slug from Atmosphere who's totally like almost like more vulnerable, and that him being okay with that adds to the confident tracks, you know, right? Whereas you have someone like Eminem who he allows himself to get vulnerable, but he showed enough of his strengths for you to know not to fuck with him.
Right.
You know?
Right. Like he skews more to one side and Slug skews more to the other side.
Yeah, you know? But man, like listen, like your project, The Blackest Rose, like I remember when I was in California when I was still with my ex, we would bump that, especially on those long drives when you're on the I-80. Have you ever driven on the I-80?
Nah.
Like those like northern east to west highways.
Yeah.
Like bro, you have a lot of downtime and we'll just go through, we'll bump like bro, like the Geek Squad, which is like a crew that like I used to bump sometime, and then we'll go to your tape, you know. And I just my favorite part of your lyricism is your how you can flow, the caliber of your wordplay, you know. I feel like today, even though like Genius.com is a platform where like people really focus on lyrics, I feel like really like effortless wordplay is a little overlooked, you know.
I agree.
Like people credit more like the statement that you're saying. You can have like a 2-syllable rhyme scheme at the end of the bar, but what you said in between is what they focus on instead of appreciating just the rhyming aspect, you know?
It's there's a lot of aspects that go into like the art form that I don't think the average person really, you know, takes the time to break down, and it's not really their job to do it either. But yeah, I think it's the same thing with you, man. Like you manage to keep the flow, your voice has a melody to it. It's musical, you know. It's not just like spoken word, and you're saying, and there's some substance at the same time. So,
yo, listen, I wanted to ask you something, man. Like I know that you came out with this comic book last year, right?
Yeah.
And well, first of all, how's that going?
It went well. Yeah, like the first run went pretty well. It took, you know, like we're funding the whole thing ourselves, so it took a little longer than we wanted to get part 2 ready, but we're just finishing it up now. We're going to send it to print in the next couple weeks, so that should be coming out soon. But nah, it went pretty well, man. We did a few of the Comic Cons. That shit was dope. That's a new experience for me. I was never like really a Comic Con kind of person, you know what I mean? So it was cool, man. It's been fun to like delve into that industry and to like learn about that craft a little more, you know.
For the viewers, for the listeners out there, would you mind telling them what's the name of the comic?
Yeah, so the comic is called Popova, and it's kind of like a revenge fantasy for women. So to put it in the simplest terms possible, I think it's it's operating with the concept that there's a patriarchy, right? And the cause for that patriarchy is men's willingness to use violence over women. Because it's not about intelligence, it's not about competence, it's not anything like that. The reason men are on top is because of our willingness to use violence. So this comic is a group of women who are fighting back using those same means against men. You know, they're like, you know, we're not going to do the picketing, we're not going to do the boycotting, we're not going to do the shaming on Twitter. We're going to kill motherfuckers, you know. So that's kind of like the premise of the comic. It's like a group of women fighting back, and then, you know, all the complications that arise within that.
That's fire, man.
Appreciate it.
Like, do you see yourself maybe transitioning from just comics to like some visuals? Because I know that you do visuals. You are savvy with the whole visual world, you know.
Yeah.
Like, who's the guy that does your videos again?
Me. I do. I'm the guy.
Hey,
You're
listen,
looking at him.
I feel you, but like you, I mean, okay, so I can level with you because I too do my own visuals, but I have a homie of mine that he in his own right is a great director, and he's down to like be the camera operator.
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah. No, so like a lot of the videos that you're probably referencing is the shit that me and Tev did in
New York.
Yeah. That's
Like
the shit that me and Tev did in New York. Yeah.
Like the video of it snowing, and I can imagine y'all were just there. You're like, yo, let's go outside and film something.
That's actually exactly what it was.
Yeah,
there was a
for
blizzard. Sure. We were in the studio. We were like, fuck it, we should shoot.
And you kind of gave it this like monochrome, but you put this like dark tan coloring.
It had like a tint to it.
A tint, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's awesome, man. You know, like, and also, I mean, let me pick your brain on something real quick, just on some creative shit. Like, so you came out with, clarify this for me. You came out with, was it like a VHS that was only available, or something like that, or a DVD?
Nah, it was a DVD. Yeah.
Yeah.
A VHS would have been dope though. That would have been dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a video album, so it was like 10 songs and 10 videos.
Yeah.
It was a video album. The funny thing is, like 2 years later, Beyonce did it. Beyonce did a video album 2 years later. So
Fucking it's funny that I too have video albums that
Right.
I just feel like, bro, people like when you try to think of some things out the box, like, yo, no one's ever done this before. Come to find out, someone else does it later, it gets more popular off it.
Of course.
And then you can't be weird about it. But like low key, you're almost like thankful that you were one step ahead.
it validates you in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like you got this crazy idea, and then Beyonce does it, or like right now, even it's not even to gas myself, but like we did that. I don't know if you remember this project we did, Smells Like Holy Spirit. So it was like 6 tracks, sample heavy, a bunch of like boom bap type shit, and we had a cover that didn't have any typography on it. It was just like a photo, right? So like, look at the Pusha album, 7 tracks, sample heavy, short album, got a photo on the album cover with no typography. It's just funny when you see shit like that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I ain't even saying they bit my shit. I'm sure they never even heard my shit.
Nah,
but
for sure.
It's kind of funny when the same shit comes back around.
Yeah, do you think maybe like we all as like just people, how they say that we're all connected?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the idea that you have gets also thrown into the collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And then someone else picks up on it. Like they put a quarter in the little machine, turn it, and it comes out. And you know what I'm saying? Like you also had this idea some time ago.
Yeah,
and
I believe that in a way. Yeah, I believe that everybody's kind of connected, and there's some kind of like higher consciousness. That's why people say tap into your creativity. I think that's kind of what you're doing.
Yeah, for
creativity
sure.
is almost like its own entity, and everybody gets their bits and pieces, I guess. But yeah, that's a cool concept, and I think I do believe that actually.
Do you ever hear some rhymes from some people where like they said the same shit you said?
Absolutely.
And it pisses you off because
Yeah.
you were so proud of the rhyme scheme that
Right.
like, oh man, like, I hate when that happens. It's like, fuck.
It's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst.
And oh man, I'm trying to think of some recent example. Like, man, this is a reoccurring thing where when I talk with people, I be drawing blanks. But
Yeah.
like whatever, like it happens.
That happens. Yeah,
it happens.
That
you
happens.
know?
Yeah. I wish I could think of some examples too, because there's a lot of times that I noticed that I'm like, damn, I said almost the same exact shit. That's even happened to me with like movies too, man. Like, what's the movie with The Rock that they're like bodybuilders and shit? Pain and Gain. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen it either, but one of my boys called me and a couple other people confirmed it, that there's like a scene out of one of my scripts that I wrote when I was in film school and shit that's like almost completely lifted from the script, dude. It's something I want to check out because a lot of people have told, and that movie's set in Miami too, just like my screenplay. So it's just kind of funny, man. And again, I'm not saying nobody bit my shit. I'm not saying none of that, but it's like maybe it is that we're tapping into some kind of collective unconscious, and maybe I tapped into that idea first, but I didn't execute it, so it reverberated and somebody else got it and did it. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm just thankful for release dates.
Yeah.
That way, if anyone says anything, I could be like, well, look it up.
And the internet, right? Thankful for the internet too.
Yeah. Do you feel like like when, okay, because you're a creative, but you were first an MC, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like as your creativity found another output, like did you ever feel like there was that like stigma of like, oh, he quit rap and he tried something else? I disagree with this whole like, why can't you just be something else as well? Like why do you got to be a one trick pony?
Yeah, I agree, but I think the reality is though that rap is perceived as like a lower form of art, which is something I disagree with completely. You know what I mean? But the reality is that like telling somebody you're a rapper may or may not hurt the way that they perceive you. That's the reality, you know what I mean? Outside of what I think or what you think or whatever, and that's a shame.
Yeah, it is, because they just don't know, man.
That's like probably based on the rap they're hearing on the radio or whatever,
Or
they're
like
not delving in and listening to like the new Art Morera, you know what I mean?
Or like our parents being like, all he's doing is talking. Eso es una mierda, coño.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah. I saw some like conservative columnist that I follow on Twitter. I try to follow people from both sides, just to see what's popping. Talking about rap ain't music, and if you think so, you're an idiot. I'm just like, really, man? It's fucking 1980 again? Like, what? Are we still having this conversation?
I think that they are being a little dismissive of how resourceful and creative a producer has to be to find an existing piece of music, break that down, and then use the overall song as a variety of instruments and repurpose it to make something completely new.
Right.
You know, like it's like try taking a meal that's already cooked and separating all the ingredients and making something completely different. You know what I mean?
And those same people praise Quentin Tarantino, who's one of my favorite directors, but like, what's different about what he does? I consider Quentin Tarantino a hip-hop director. He samples. He takes, you know, shit from old movies that he likes and he repurposes it in his movies.
Yeah.
And he wins Oscars. But hip-hop people get shitted on. Shout out to Kendrick, though. Got that Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kendrick. That goes a long way, man.
Do you speaking of like I don't know if maybe we should touch on this.
Go for it.
Like, how do you feel about when he invited that white girl on stage to sing the lyrics and she says nigga, and then like everyone else, the whole crowd is white and they just stone her to death, but then they sing the lyrics as well. Like, what's up with this double standard? You know?
I'm gonna keep it 100, bro. I think he played her, man.
I think so too.
That was kind of sad. Like, I kind of wasn't feeling that shit.
I think so too, man. I think that maybe he kind of used her as a pawn just to make a point that like maybe people are being a little bit like insensitive of how that word is being utilized by like current like people in the black community versus like how it was used back in the day as a derogatory term. You know what I'm saying? But
it's like, do you lose the right to make that argument once you put it out for monetary gain?
That's funny you say that, bro. Like, it's like, okay, like your fans can't say it, but they can pay tickets to go to your show. You'll accept their money.
And you're cool with them singing it in the car because that's how you get paid. You know what I'm saying? You're cool with them playing it on Spotify and singing it in the car, and you're going to put this girl on the spot like that? Like, I understand the sensitivities behind the word. Like, that argument, I understand. You know, that's like a word that I used to use in everyday speech, and it would come out in my music, and now I'm trying not to say it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like somebody checked me or whatever. It's just I feel like it's not really my right to say it. You know what I'm saying? But that's my personal choice. Like, you know, the truth is some people got a pass to say it, bro. Like, Pun wasn't black.
Yeah.
He got a pass.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Miami, man, like, all the Hispanic kids be saying it, you know? Like, I mean, it's just you know what I think? It's just hip-hop.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's just hip-hop. Like, you grew up in Hialeah or in Deep Kendall, and, like, you got your black homies, your white homies, Hispanic homies, but everyone's bumping hip-hop.
Right.
And it just becomes the ebonics of...
Yeah, it becomes like the language of the culture and shit.
You know?
So I think he did her kind of dirty, man. And, like, maybe he did prove a point, but I just don't think that was the right way to do it. You know?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that you know, it's unfortunate that there's any words that have that much power and that much stigma attached to them, you know? That's like, I feel like language is the building blocks to society, right? Like, without language, without communication, all this shit wouldn't exist, bro. We wouldn't be talking on this microphone. We like taking it back to evolution of the human race. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like language is something that shouldn't have any limitations like that. And when you start introducing that, like, you're playing a dangerous game, man. Because you're right, it creates like these double standards, and yeah, I think it was a kind of a fucked up situation, man.
Yo, let me ask you something, man. I see during the time that I've known you, or at least on social media, you show this insane, like, not insane, I'm over exaggerating, but you show this, like, you have this great relationship with, like, your dog, like me with my dog, you know?
Yeah.
How do you feel about how some people are closer with their dogs or, like, with their pets than they are with, like, or, like, they would, like, how do I want to phrase this? Like they're more closer with just, like, their bond with their dog than they are with, like, someone in their family that's another human being or whatever. And, like, they would go out of their way just to make sure their dog's okay, but, like, not even put that much effort in, like, calling somebody saying happy birthday.
Or even into themselves. Like, you see somebody... you know, if their dog shows any kind of symptoms or something, you take them to the vet right away. Whereas, like, if you have a cough or some shit or whatever, like, you probably won't go to the hospital. So it's like, it goes even further than what you were saying. I think people take care of their dogs better than they take care of themselves, which is funny. But I think it's because the pets are predictable, man. You know what your dog is gonna give you. He's gonna be there. He's dependable, and people are unpredictable, man. So,
do you how do you feel about like do you value? I mean, damn, I don't know if you don't want to, like, it's all good, you know. But
nah,
like,
I don't care, man.
Do
Go
you
for it.
how do you feel about when some people are just disconnected from their family? You know, they're like, nah, I don't. You know, I'm the black sheep in my family, and I don't like. They put their relationships with their friends above their blood. You know,
Right. I mean, look, I think respect is earned whether you're family or whether you're friends or whether you're, you know, have a romantic relationship or whatever. I think respect should be earned. So, like, a question like that is too broad for me to give, like, one all-encompassing answer to. You know what I'm saying? It's very situational. Like, I know people who, like, their family are not the best people, you know what I'm saying? And maybe their friends treated them better. So that's a situational thing. It's hard to give it, like, one answer, you know, to put it under one umbrella.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't trying to like set up the question to, like, box you into a certain response.
Yeah.
Now I'm happy with the response you gave, because it kind of, like, broadens the, you know, it doesn't make it black or white. We're kind of in the gray, you know, when it comes to that. Because, man, like, I mean, for me personally, like, I love my family, but I feel like like I have, like, a small selection of, like, friends that I communicate with more, and it's crazy. Like, I try to reach out to some cousins or whatever, and, like, they're just living their lives, man. Maybe, like, the fact that we're family makes you, he's all right. I'll see him on the holiday, and
Yeah.
you know, people can lose sight of how special it is to be able to just call a cousin up. You know, hey man, what's up? You been all right? No, I'm chilling. Hey, I'm busy. I'll call you back.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
fine. You know.
But you know what's funny is that, like, you don't select your family. So your family's your family no matter what, but your friends who you probably have an easier time talking and communicating with because you selected them in a way. You know what I'm saying? Or you guys found each other or whatever. Like, so it's more likely that you and a friend would have common interests and you would relate. Now, I got people like cousins. I got lucky that I have certain cousins that are like homies too. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's just a lucky situation. But not everybody has that, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Word. Hey, so you spent some time in California, right?
Yeah. L.A.
In L.A.
Mhm.
Word.
You did too, right?
I spent time in California, but not really L.A. I was almost everywhere except L.A.
Okay.
You know, in North California, Santa Cruz. I would drive up and down the 101 a lot. Sometimes I'll just go to San Francisco. Like, I was up in Humboldt County, which, by the way, there's this local legend in Humboldt County. He actually just passed away. His name is 420 Dave. So, rest in peace, 420 Dave, man. Every time that I'll be walking up and down Garberville, and I'll see him just sitting in his chair, and I'll just kind of chop it up with him. Old school hippie, you know. He always had a bag of buds, you know. Very soft spoken, very nimble, and always gave me the thumbs up, you know.
Nice.
Passed away a few days ago.
R.I.P. man.
Garberville. Have you ever heard of Garberville?
Nah.
Garberville is man, it's like this. So as you're driving up the 101 in California, you've driven the 101.
Yeah. Almost every day.
Okay, so when you drive up the 101 and you start getting into the Avenue of the Giants, you'll start to see these billboards that they're marketed like Alice in Wonderland, like you're about to get into Wonderland, you know? And what they're talking about is Humboldt County.
Okay.
And it's true. That place is kind of topsy-turvy, you know? And in Garberville, man, like, I remember when I first got in there, the way that people greet you, if you're cool, you know, if you don't seem like someone that has like a motive that is negative, they'll be like, "What's up, man? Are you not from here?" "Nah, I'm not really from here, man." "Oh shit, you got weed?" Nah, I was kind of hoping to see if there's a dispensary or something around here." "Nah, hold on," and they'll go into their book bag and they'll hook you up with a handful of buds because you don't know that they're doing their thing on a whatever level, but like, you know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
beautiful.
Where else do you see that? I got so used to that. I got so used to people being giving with the buds that like when I had my little stash, I started to be like that too. And people from Miami were looking at me like, "Did you just give me a nug?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It became normal to me.
Yeah,
you know,
that's some alien shit in Miami, man.
It is, bro.
You know what's funny, man? I don't mean to get into like a shit on Miami session, but like my girl's from she's actually from California, but she grew up in New York. And New York's got that reputation for everybody being dicks or whatever. You know, it's like New Yorkers have that reputation. And when she moved down to Miami, she couldn't believe how rude people are over here and shit. I tried to warn her. Like, to me, New York people are friendly compared to Miami and shit. So Miami's like the 180 from what you're talking about.
Why do you think people in Miami are just naturally so rude?
Damn. Like, I've been trying to figure out that fucking answer for 25 years, bro.
Okay, all right. Let me maybe pitch something to you, and then we can kind of go from there.
All right.
A couple factors. Do you think one, it's just the unbearable heat makes everyone mad agitated?
Okay.
I
could buy that.
And then maybe like the traffic. The majority of people that live here are from the Caribbean or South America, whereas the driving over there is not as
It's no holds barred.
Yeah, and they do that shit over here, and then people are just trying to so the traffic is like a huge stress factor,
Yeah.
and the exhaust from all the vehicles just makes things even hotter.
Yeah.
So you got the heat, the traffic, and then you're in this melting pot of a bunch of cultures where what's normal to them is not to you, and it's kind of hard to find that middle ground.
Yeah.
And that's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that could be it. I can't really think of anything to dispute with that. I think it's got to have something to do with not being fully assimilated to American culture. I think it's got to have something to do with that, because like Miami's like a revolving door of immigration, and like that's why I'm here. You know, I don't know about your story, but I'm sure at some point your family immigrated from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's got something to do with it, man. Like, for instance, like a place like California, there's families that have been there for hundreds of years, man. You know, so I think it's a little more sense of community, whereas Miami is just like, I feel like it's a revolving door, people coming in and out, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And for some reason, Miami's stuck like in this, Miami's like in a bubble, man. With the, like, it's very uniform in a way, dude. Like, you know, it's not, or at least, I don't know, man, maybe the era when I was growing up, right? Like, it wasn't cool to be, like, intelligent. It wasn't cool to be into like comic books like how it is now, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there's not that same level of like openness in Miami. It's very rigid. There's like one way to do it, you know, and everybody kind of just sticks to that script. It's weird when you go to a place like Cali or a place like New York that's like truly diverse. Miami's diverse in Hispanic cultures, you know what I mean? But like, you know, a place like New York, you get Eastern Europe, you know, right next to a Dominican neighborhood. You get like Jewish people, and you know, people truly from all over the world. It's a different kind of melting pot.
That's how it is in San Francisco too.
Yeah,
Little Italy, Little China, or I think it's China, and it's just like they even have the flags painted on streetlights, so you know what part of town you're in.
That's crazy.
You know,
that's crazy.
When I first got into San Francisco, when I first flew in 2014. Like the homies took my friend Kimber and I. We went to this pizza spot called Golden Boy Pizza. So fire! Have you ever had clam pizza? I
can't say that I have. No.
It's so fire, bro. Yeah. It's insane. It became a tradition. Every time that I go to San Francisco, like I just pass by there. It's crazy how traditions start, right?
Right.
You repeat the first thing you did.
Yeah.
You know.
You had a good experience that one time, and you keep chasing that, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. And then like the fourth time you go, the pizza isn't as good as the second time.
It falls off.
And then you almost are like, why? What's happening to my life?
I ruined it. Yeah.
Do you have any traditions?
Yeah. I mean, I smoke weed, so that's a tradition. But
good, man. Take a smoke a joint for me at some point, allegedly.
Yeah.
You know, because this probation is funny. It's so crazy how like now, like right down the street there's a store that says marijuana doctor.
I saw that.
And I'm like, now, you know, like
right.
for real,
right?
And it's like it's just funny, bro. Like, but I had this weird feeling. I don't know. Maybe during the time of this recording, like Missouri is it's not legal over there yet, but when you're on probation, you're under jurisdiction of the county that you got arrested in.
Okay.
You know? So the laws over there and the laws over here are the ones that, you know, I have to abide by. So weed could be legal here, but not over there, and I can't smoke.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But like being sober, I haven't smoked weed in like almost 2 years now. And I used to be known as like the guy with the weed. Yeah. And like I kind of started to not like that like hat that they would put on me. Whereas now, like, I haven't smoked in almost 2 years, and I kind of like it. I'm not saying that I'm never going to smoke weed again, but I do not see myself being, like, an insane pothead anymore like I once was.
You feel like you needed it at the time?
It became so constant that, yeah, like, not that I needed to get high, but weed needed to be there for things to be normal with all the friends and shit that I had now.
Yeah.
Whereas now when I see them, like, and I'm not doing any of that shit, and like they step outside to smoke, it almost seems like I'm like the wrench thrown in the operation now. You know?
Yeah. It gets awkward, right?
Not for me, but for them, I could imagine it gets like a little. But for me, like, yo, I don't care. I'm not supposed to be around weed anyway. But if someone were to pull out like a zip right now, I have no temptation to like. I just don't understand the logic how someone will smoke a blunt right after they see the PO, and then spend the entire month paranoid that they might get drug tested next time. Yeah. Like, how are you gonna smoke and get stoned for a few hours and then sacrifice an entire month?
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Of peace of mind.
Yeah, that's not worth it.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, whatever, man. Like, I kind of feel like we're in this prohibition period. That's what my lawyer was telling the judge. He's like, listen, we're in a transition era. You know, KRS had that track not too long ago, like a few years ago now, actually, where he's like, how can they have dispensaries in California and it be illegal a few states over, but we're all America? And it's like, I understand how every state has the way that they want to govern,
right?
But it's a little funny, you know?
It is. And do you feel like everyone that's locked up for weed should be released?
Yeah.
I feel that way too.
Maybe. I mean, listen, like, if you want to find a middle ground, okay, maybe put them on probation. I'm not saying that I want people to be on probation. But, like, come on, bro. Prison?
Yeah.
For
it's a
weed?
little much. Yeah, it's a little much.
Damn, fool. Like, that's crazy.
I've been arrested for weed like 3 times too, man. It feels stupid every time. One time was like for one blunt. And it's like, really? You're going to take me to jail for this shit, man?
Yeah, for real. Yeah. And the thing is that in theory, these police officers have to hold up the law. The law knows no face. It's just the law. Right. But those police officers probably do mad shit when they get off. And they're the ones enforcing the law. And like a thing that kind of made me a little funny about, thankfully, the judge that I stood in front of showed mercy to me, you know, because I was facing 15 years. I was pulled over. I had 20 pounds on me. Sheesh. You know? And like, he showed mercy, you know? Like, my lawyer negotiated with the prosecutor that I would get 0 days. He's like, nah, like, listen, like 0 days. And the prosecutor agreed to 0 days. But when I went to court, like, he was like, you know, the judge was telling my lawyer, like, you know, like, you expect me to let this man get off the hook with 20 pounds? I know the crime is above 35 grams, but that could be 36 grams. This man had 20 pounds. You're going to tell me he's not going to do no time? And, like, my mom was, like, trembling. She was like, fuck. And that's the worst part, putting your family through it.
Yeah, man.
You know? Yeah. Like, putting your family through it. So, like, when he finally negotiated that I would do 4 months, she started crying. But I knew that 4 months was, I hit the lottery.
Yeah, of course.
Because even if he would have told me 2 years, I would be in there right now. None of these songs I've done would have been created.
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking right now.
We wouldn't be talking right now.
That seems like a lot of power to put in one man's hands, right?
Yeah, and who knows whoever the judge is, what they do when they go home. Who knows? Right. You know, what if he had a bad day the night before? He argues with his wife, takes it out on some guy that he didn't like the color of his shirt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It just seems, I don't know, but in comparison to any other justice system around the world, we have the best one.
We do, man. We do.
So
that's a fact. And I would say, like, the best economic system too. As much as people shit on capitalism, and I'm one of those guys too, right? Like, I've made these, like, songs or whatever talking about revolution, this and that. But, like, the truth is, like, I've been to Cuba, man.
Yeah.
You know, and I was there working, like doing documentaries. I was there for long periods of time too. So like I literally spoke to hundreds of people, man. That's not an exaggeration. Okay. And like, so I'll give you one anecdote, right? This one kid that we were interviewing, I kind of committed like a little bit of a faux pas because I asked him, I don't remember the exact question, but it was something along the lines of like, what are your aspirations? What do you want to be? And his answer like gave me goosebumps because like he didn't even understand the question. He didn't even understand like the concept of not being in the exact same spot where you're at now 20 years from now. That's not even a concept that ran through his mind. He was like, what do you mean, where am I going to be? I'm going to be right here doing the same exact shit 20 years from now.
Wow.
And I feel like that's one of the things that people don't think about over here. Like, dude, your dreams and aspirations literally keep you alive.
Right.
It literally keeps people alive, man. Like you see it all the time. Some guy that owns a company or whatever lives to be, you know, super old or whatever. As soon as he quits the company, as soon as he steps down, he dies a month later.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, that shit keeps you alive, man. And they don't even understand that concept over there. So, like, you see a lot of people, and I don't mean to get, like, political with it. Like, you know, I don't really want to get too deep into that shit. But, like, people talking about that socialism now, that shit scares the shit out of me, bro.
It's scary as fuck, bro.
That shit
of course.
scares the shit out of me, bro.
You know, it's like, I mean, I'm not really a fan of getting political either, especially in the current landscape, because you say something and then like you get harassed and bombarded.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like capitalism gives you a reason to have a strong spirit, to drive, to do things. It works if you work it. Whereas, how motivated would you want to be if everything you do, you reap no benefits from it? It gets taken from you, and then they decide what quality of life you get to live. It's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You know, but whatever, I digress. Like, I had this one fan of mine, she's a sweetheart, but like, she went to Cuba. She's like, I love Cuba. And like, I'm like, yeah, because you're an American.
Right.
You're an American in Cuba. You don't know.
Right.
Like this, like, yeah, medianoche, like Noche, like no Che Guevara shirts anywhere, please. You know, like I don't want no one to think that because like Miami, like the thing is that if you come to Miami and you talk with old Cubans, you'll see how they're so much more appreciative of the Miami life because they know what it's like elsewhere. You know, it's like that phrase that like this phrase that someone in my family's like, they're like, yeah, the American way of life is horrible except for all the other ones.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like, yo, let's not take for granted, you know?
I agree, man. I agree. It's and I feel like even the Cubans, the Cuban exiles that came here right after, like, they felt the effects of someone, of an overthrow, right? But like the Cubans that stayed there in a long term, they like these long term people that there's been already several generations living under this regime and doing, you know, like just this whole different mind state, and it's literally produced a different breed of people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of chilling when you go over there, man. It's you know, it makes you really appreciate what you got. And I've been to some fucked up places, dude. I went to Haiti after the earthquake hit. Like, we went to Haiti right after. We were doing a story about they sent some Cuban doctors, right? So we were just doing a story about that. But I mean, that place was fucked up. But you know, even in speaking to the people, it wasn't that same. It wasn't that same okie doke that the Cuban people were on. You know what I mean? Bro, it's sad, dude. It's sad. So
Yeah,
like,
man.
I shut down that socialism shit quick, bro.
Yeah, bro, for real.
Yeah.
But I could understand, not that I choose to be understanding, to validate young people that think in theory, think socialism, it works. But like, I also take into account that in their hearts, they just want everyone to be okay.
Of course. And I agree with the sentiment, with like the empathy for people. I agree with that, but that's not the way to go.
Right.
I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? That's not the way to go, man. Like, and I'm sure your family's seen it, and it just seems a little naive to me to be.
Yeah, imaginative.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna overthrow the system while you're sipping a fucking green tea latte at Starbucks. That's what the revolution is gonna be, you know. And plus, it's easy to like shit on the system while you're enjoying the fruits of it. You got an iPhone, right? Like you got a laptop. I mean, this is the fruits of a capitalistic society, bro.
Right, exactly.
That's the shit we take for granted, man.
Exactly, 100%, man. And you know what? I'm actually really happy to hear that to see that you're aware, you know. And it's kind of hard to like get into these debates, not because like that, not only because I disagree, but because I get a little flustered when I get into these debates. That like it makes me seem like I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'd rather just be like, all right, bro, that's fine. Like, okay, like a thing that that I'm not really too crazy about right now is that in hip hop is more. It seems like hip hop is more political than ever, and it's like I remember growing up where it was rude to talk about politics and religion.
Right.
Whereas now, if you're not okay with talking about either, they think that you have an evil motive that you don't want to disclose to them, and then they make you feel like, oh man, fuck this fool, you know?
Well, it's a lot of labels get thrown around way too easily nowadays, man. Like Nazi. Yo, let's pump the brakes on that one a little bit.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I
sure,
mean?
man.
Like, 11 million people died in the Holocaust. You
And-
know? Let's
and-
pump the brakes on the Nazi comparisons.
And
for now,
Nazis
you know?
were like socialists, bro. You
Right.
know?
It's the National Socialist Party of Germany, right? Or something like that.
So
yeah.
like it's a little ironic,
It
you
is.
know?
It is.
So I mean, you know, it's
Yeah, we can go deep on that, but yeah.
but whatever, man. Like, you know, okay. So just to switch the vibe up real quick, I wanted to touch back on some music. Like,
Let me ask you one thing. What did you think of the Kanye thing?
I loved it. You know, I loved it.
I didn't like the slave comment, but everything else, like him saying, and Chance jumped in too. Him saying like blacks don't have to be Democrats.
Yeah.
That was an important thing to say.
Now look, I don't just because I don't agree with the slave comment either doesn't mean that I can't
Understand where he was coming from?
and be like, I love how daring he was
I agree, man.
to be just to be opposing or to present a different idea. Why can't people present new ideas anymore?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like it's like with music. Why does every song have to be pretty much the same? Why can't people just be weird and be accepted and embraced, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I loved it, man. And I like this whole 7-track album too.
Me too.
Like bro, most of my albums are like 5, 6, 7, 8 songs. I only have one album that's 12 records, you know? All the other ones are like you can listen to the whole thing on the way to Walmart, you know?
Yeah. Illmatic, 10 songs.
Yep.
I don't know why more people don't take note. Well, you know, like I'm working on a rap project now, bro. I ain't done a rap project in 5 years, and a lot of that inspiration came from that little wave of Kanye albums, man. I ain't even like a big Kanye fan like that, but I love what he was doing. Man.
I think that well, first of all, like, man, I can't see myself going 1 week without writing a song. So for you to tell me 5 years,
Since
that is
I dropped my last solo album, it's been 5 years.
wow,
Yeah,
that's
man.
so insane,
I know.
dog. Like I'm just so addicted to writing. Like I mean, that's just so crazy. But you must have a lot of shit to talk about.
But I've been doing other creative shit, and yeah, now I have a lot of shit to talk about, you know.
Insane.
And I've been
dog.
doing other creative shit though. It's not like I just stopped completely, you know. You switch from one thing to another.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I mean, but like, well, you already know I'm totally looking forward to that shit, man. You're like my favorite MC from Miami.
Thank you, man. For real. Appreciate that.
Nah, for sure, bro. I mean, I have like, for example, I rock with Rev heavy. Back in the day, PM was one of my favorites too.
I like PM. Damn.
You know?
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Like,
bro.
where is PM, bro? Like,
Damn.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy.
Yeah, man.
PM was dope.
There was a little while that like I was like, yo, this dude's totally gonna. And he still can if he really wanted to put out a project and work the rap game. Like, there's no ageism in hip hop no more.
And it seemed like he like had it right. Like he had that unspeakable like quality and shit. Mm-hmm. You know who I like too? Source. I like Source Spoken. His shit is dope. Yeah, his shit is dope.
Source Spoken is one of those like against the grain MCs. Like he's from here, but he's not scared of making music that's totally like the opposite of what you would expect someone from here to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, Source is a good dude, man. I did a documentary for him like some years ago. But I think that Kanye West is gonna go down as like the most creative, influential person in hip hop. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to top everything that Kanye's done, you know?
Yeah.
Like as far as just pushing the boundary here and there, like he's like anti-marginalization.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it.
Well, he's not scared to take chances either.
And
Like,
take L's. You
yeah.
know?
Well, Pusha was saying that he like switched the album art like the day before the release and shit like that. He produced a bunch of the tracks over and shit like a week before they put it out. I love that kind of shit, bro.
Me too, man.
I love that shit, man. I feel like music is a very spur of the moment thing.
Yeah.
I don't like to edit my tracks. I don't do ad libs. I like one track, you know what I mean? I feel like it's a very music, you got to capture it in the moment. I can't like write a track. I can't write a song and then drop it, you know, record it a month later. I write a song, I got to record it in the moment, and it is what it is. And if there's some imperfections, I'd rather leave it in.
Yeah, because it kind of adds this like little case, it's like a scratch on like a sneaker.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, you're like one of those that like you'll lock me in the studio. I'll be back. Like I'll see you in a few days, and whatever comes out comes out. Like a moment in like a jar. You know?
Yeah.
Like for the most part, I'm like that too. But I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting on some songs that like that I made and I recorded some references of, and they're there, but I'm not ready to release them yet. I kind of just want to sit 1 week in a studio, record all of them, and then be like, yo, that's it. You know?
Do you write in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been writing in my head for the last like 11 years.
Why?
Because writing on paper, it's easier to forget the cadence and flows. Whereas, and also if I write in my head, it locks in the breath control. I have to be able to recite it.
Same.
You know?
Same.
And it just kind of makes it more jazzy.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
feel like the paper puts you in too much of like a 4/4 tempo. You know what I mean? Like it puts you too rigid.
Yeah. And also, I'm not like the only time that I ever wrote down a song in the last like 11 years was when I was locked up. I thought I wrote a whole song in my head. And then I'm like, damn, I still got 3.5 months here. Let me just write it down so I don't forget it. And I did. And I wrote it down. My handwriting was horrible, you know?
How did you discover it?
I was in the studio one time with my man Q, who's in LA right now. And he's like, yo, we're going to write a song in our head today. And I'm like, for real? The pen was shaking. And I was like, for real? He's like, yeah, come on. The beat's on loop. We paced around the studio.
Had he done it already, or he was doing it
That
for
was
the
his first time too.
Okay.
So like we each wrote our first verse in our head. He finished before I did.
Yeah.
And then he's like, where you at? And I'm like, hold on, give me a little bit. Like 15 minutes later, I was like, all right, let's do it. And it's such a liberating feeling to no longer depend on the pen and pad, you know? Like, and ever since then, everything I've ever written was 100% written in my head.
I did it on the way to record with my man Draz. You know Draz, right?
Draz is the man.
Yeah. On the way to record, and this is like back in the first ID4 mixtape and shit. And I was just out of time. I was doing something else, and we had the session at a certain time or whatever. And I was in the car, and I had to, you know, I was driving, so I couldn't write it down. So I literally, by necessity, I just wrote the 16 bars in the car and shit. I got there and I spit it. I was like, damn, I actually just wrote it in my head, but it was completely by necessity. You know,
Fire.
Yeah, it was dope. So I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, man. Like I love it, bro. I mean, like there are some heads that they say that they do it, but like it sounds like they just rushed through the whole thing.
Right.
Like I've noticed that from your earlier works, you were more punchline oriented, and then you kind of transitioned to a more like what's the word? Like you would just describe storytelling. You know, you would kind of like describe thing. It wasn't really punchline driven, but there was still them in there. You know, you would use more like similes just to kind of describe more figurative language.
Yeah.
You know, like do you prefer that now more than just the punchline? Set up punch.
Yeah, I don't know if I prefer it, but yeah, I do. I feel like the way I was writing before, like in the first ID4 album, it wasn't like a flow. It wasn't as natural. There was a lot more thinking involved. So I would like, you know, come up with a bunch of dope punchlines and then try to come up with like filler shit that still made sense or whatever, you know. So I was kind of like reverse engineering it.
Yeah.
And then I think I just started like evolving, you know, like writing linearly, like starting from the beginning and just going, you know what I mean? And whatever comes out, comes out. So like, yeah, I think part of it was like I had my flow, I had my little punchline flow, and I was hesitant to step out of that for a while, you know what I'm saying? And then I kind of just started taking more chances, and it worked out for me.
Word, man. Good. Yeah, I'm happy that you. I'm happy that you, because you get it. You know,
You
Like,
skipped that phase though. Like you never had or at least I never heard it, right? Like you never did the punchline stage, or did you?
when I was in DMG 2005 to 2007. I was battle rapping in high school,
Yeah.
freestyle battles.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to make music. I did a couple of shitty freestyles, just standing in front of a condenser mic, scared of it. Then I got into a crew, and that was my style of like just set up punch, set up punch, set up punch.
Yeah.
Like I was the rapper, like the rapper's rapper in that group.
Well, that you actually bring up a good point. I was in a group back then too. You know what I'm saying? I was in ID4, so it was like a little more of a competition too. So like when you start doing your own shit though, see like I feel like the ID4 shit hit a wall when I started to want to do songs about like certain topics that like Manny's not going through the same shit. So it's like, how could we do a song about it? You're gonna be faking, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But I started wanting to get a little more personal and to you know change the writing process a little bit, and that's why I started doing my own shit.
Yeah.
But like being in a group was probably a lot of what influenced that punchline heavy style, because it's like when you're in the studio doing a song with your homies, there ain't a lot of like thought going into the concept and how our verses are gonna tie together. It's like, yo, you sit in your corner, I sit in my corner, we try to write the hottest shit, and then we go in the booth, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a completely different, it's almost a different sport, man.
Which like that process is how Rev and I, when Rev and I collab on records, same thing. I think I stand over there, I think of my verse, he stands over here and thinks of his verse, but somehow, some way, we are on the same page.
Yeah. Same with Littles though. Like we're almost always on the same page. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's weird how that happens though.
But like one of the reasons why I just started kind of doing my own thing is because like when you work in a room full of other MCs, you are like compromising. You're compromising like what you really want to say, because like how you were saying, like you're not sure if someone else can like meet you on that page, but sometimes them being completely contrasting is good too, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But like, man, I don't know, I'm just, it kind of made me a little antisocial. I'm sitting here with all these records, and like just now I'm starting to be okay with doing features, you know?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever done a feature with somebody and you're not too crazy about this one part, but you allow them to be, you know?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure. Yeah.
like,
about
so-
like something they did, you mean?
Okay, like, yeah, like a line they said, you're not really crazy about it, but like, are you gonna be micromanaging them or like letting them be? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's tough. Like I'd probably let them be.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because
But
like,
that, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but
I think it's like more of a preference. Like some people will be like, well, what's better for the song, you know? And some other people will be like, what's better for the artist, you know?
Right.
Like Paul McCartney would tell everybody what to do. He'll be the producer of the whole record, whereas John Lennon let everyone be,
right.
you know?
But that depends also like what the record's for. Like if the record's for me, I'm really selective on my features on my solo shit. Like my solo shit barely has any features, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if I'm jumping on somebody else's record, they do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, well, like, for one thing, like, I think that collaborating could be healthy. I'm not really crazy about all these posse cuts, you know? I feel like people need to learn how to stand on their own, not learn, but remind themselves how to stand on their own 2 feet more instead of being like a feature-based artist or whatever. I mean, but I'm a fan first. So when I see all these posse cuts and it's like an album with all these features, it's like,
Is this really your album or what is this? A
Yeah.
compilation? Yeah, what is this?
like the only one that I feel like gets away with it is Dr. Dre
yeah.
and Kanye. You
Yeah,
know?
they're both producers though.
Yeah.
They're both producers.
Like their album is more like a
Showcase.
showcase. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel like when you record alone, you take more chances? Whereas if you have like a you know, as opposed to having a engineer recording you, like when you record yourself alone, do you feel like you take more chances with your performance and with even with the shit that you say?
Yeah, 100%, because I'm not, like, when I'm by myself, I'm not taking up anybody else's time.
Right.
Or like, I'll look over and be all self-conscious about, like, sounding stupid. And then they'll be like, I wasn't feeling that. And I'm like, hold on, I ain't done yet.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like when I'm by myself, what I currently do is I'll record until I'm currently happy with it, and then I'll have a couple homies that I'll send it to and be like, yo, what do you let me an ear, what do you think? And they'll be like, I'm not crazy about this part and that part. I'll be like, all right, that's cool. And I'll come back and I'll take based off of the strength of like I asked them, you know?
Right.
And I'll be all right, for sure, I'll try some things out. But if it's one of those things where like I'll be like, what do you think? And they, I love this, but turn the snare up a little bit. In my mind, I'll be like, nah, I like it where it's at.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And like the more that you ask for someone's opinion, it's almost like there are some people that like they don't ask for anyone's opinion, and like, you know, they feel so confident. You see them like they just own it, you know?
Right.
They just own the imperfections, and it makes that more like people gravitate more towards not just the quality of the music or whatever, but just the how confident they are about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Even if like the technical skill ain't there as far as like the wordplay, I think a person's confidence really.
Yeah, people
really
are
makes it
drawn to
different.
the confidence for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about this with Rev on the first episode. I think that where music is going is like, so we went from vinyl, then we went to CDs, to tapes, and CDs, and the internet came, people uploaded everything to LimeWire, Napster, illegal downloading, then they made iTunes to kind of like be able to monetize it, and then YouTube came and people just put everything on YouTube, and then streaming services came, and now you can listen to everything on those streaming platforms. But the artists are making like a penny per stream,
right,
which is not nearly it's cool for major artists, but for local upcoming artists it's like you're not really, it's not too lucrative. You know where I think it's going from here, and tell me what you think about this. I think where it's going is that artists are gonna have like their own app, like a fan club, their own subscription service, but they're gonna charge like $1.
Cut out the middleman.
Yeah, they're gonna charge like $1, maybe $2 a month, and promise the subscribers, like Patreon, promise the subscribers every month you're gonna have music and videos and other cool stuff.
I like Patreon. I like that platform.
Yeah, like, and that concept, but instead of it being under Patreon, it's just like
be their own shit.
Yeah, like, hey, listen, you got the Shottie app every month, no matter what. Sometimes it's gonna be 5 songs, sometimes it's gonna be 2 songs, but every month you got something new from the person you're subscribed to. And if you have 10,000 fans paying $2 a month, you're making 20 racks a month. Like, now you can totally make, you know, like, it's gonna be like the fan clubs again. You know what I'm saying?
But does that make sense for the fan? Like, for the listener? Because like, even if it's $1 a month, right? What's Spotify? $8 a month, and you're getting everything.
Yeah.
So you at $1 a month, you're gonna be able to follow 8 artists.
Well, like, maybe if the fan is devoted enough to, or like it's just that big of a fan of the artist, yeah, in their mind they'll be like, fuck it. Like, if to compare $1 a month to like $9 a month for unlimited artists, is like, yeah, it's a little unfair to compare that. Yeah, you get hundreds of thousands of artists for $9. Why would I just pay $1 for you? But in your mind, it's like, so my music is not even worth $1 to you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like
I see why that makes sense for the artist, but I'm just like, you know, like the market drives. What's the term?
Yeah, like the growers set the prices.
Yeah, the audience dictates the market. You know what I mean? So from like a money perspective, I just don't see how something like that would work. And also, it depends, like, how scarce is the music. Yeah, have you ever heard of Mac Homie?
No.
So he's a dude, I think he's from Jersey. He fucks with West Side Gun and Conway and those dudes. Okay. Or he was for a little bit. I don't think he does now. But he does some shit, which I mean, you got to have some steel balls to do this shit, right? So what he does, he doesn't put his music up anywhere on the internet. He prints up like 100 hard copies, CDs, and he sells them shits for like $1.75 a piece, bro. So he treats it like a piece of art, you know what I'm saying? And he only sells them Through Instagram, you got to DM him and PayPal him, and he'll send you a copy. And there's only 100 that exist, and that's it. And he's charging 175. He sells out every single time. That's a ill way to like that. To me, that's some revolutionary thinking. You know?
No, but how many followers does this guy have? Like, he has way more than 100. Is what I'm trying to like. So like,
but you haven't heard of him.
No, but this is the point that I'm getting at. You can have 100,000 followers. Doesn't mean that 100,000 people are gonna pay $1 a month. You might only have 5,000 out of that 100,000. They're like, yeah, I'll do this, and it's not available nowhere else.
Right. That's
You know?
what's genius about what he's doing, though. The fact that he's making it scarce.
Yeah.
There's only 100 of these. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, you only got to sell 100 to reach to. You know, that's like selling what, like 10.7 albums or whatever per one copy. So it's like you're selling 1,000 copies or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like on an indie scale, that's pretty good.
I mean, with the fan club idea that I'm thinking of is the music is not on anywhere else.
Right.
It's like, listen, you're subscribing, but you get exclusivity.
That
to
would
this.
work. That would work.
I guess I forgot.
If the
forgot to
music's
mention
not on
that.
Spotify, or because like you know,
Yeah.
for the average person, I might support you because I fuck with your shit. You know what I'm saying? But if you're trying to convince the person that's never heard of your shit before, when they could just find you on YouTube or whatever, you know, that's a hard sell.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to mention that part. About,
Okay.
like, it's not available anywhere else.
Pretty important, that
you know?
part.
Like, for example, like Linkin Park had this Linkin Park Underground fan club. You'll pay an annual thing, you know? They'll send a package in the mail with a shirt, CD. But what's on the CD is not available anywhere else, you know? So, I may have forgot. I omitted that, but I didn't mean to.
But
you
Linkin
know?
Park is benefiting off the huge marketing machine that they were under for years and years and years, you know?
Yeah.
They're not just starting fresh.
You know, man, I was such a big fan of Linkin Park, bro. But, like, I was locked up when my man Joel, like, wrote me a letter, like, saying, like, yo, do you know Chester died? And I was like, no fucking way. I was locked up when I got this news,
Damn.
you know? So I'm here, like, all I wanted to do was hear, like, some of his music, My December or something, just to kind of, like, you know, be in that little moment. And, like, it's crazy, dog. Like, I'm just really happy that Mike Shinoda, he just dropped his new album, Post Traumatic. He's one of those artists that he can drop an album every 10 years.
What's the celebrity death that impacted you the most, would you say?
That impact, Robin Williams.
Yo, you know, I was thinking the same thing. I
Robin
was thinking
Williams.
the same thing, bro.
Like you know,
Good Will Hunting is one of the best movies I think ever, man.
Robin Williams is one of those, like, I have memories with, like, my dad because my mom and dad split up. So, like, Mrs. Doubtfire, like, him going to that extent just to be around his kids, you know? And, like, my dad will get teary-eyed, like, watching that because, yo, like, when parents split, like, that shit, and just Robin Williams is, like, the perfect, like, his little smile that he had, like, how can you not feel for this character, you know? Yeah, man. Like, I mean, I could have mentioned a few other people, but, like, off the top of my head, that's Robin Williams, you know?
You know which one was tough for me too? You know, tough, I say that relatively. It's not like, you know, I didn't shed tears or anything, but like Roger Moore, man. I grew up on his Bond flicks, dude. Like, even more, you know, I'm more familiar with Roger Moore shit than I am with even Robin Williams, you know, because I watched those Bond movies so much when I was a kid, dude. Yeah, that one was weird.
It's
He's
crazy,
the first
bro.
Bond to die too.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's the first one.
Yeah, like it's a funny thing, man, to like, because when we grow up, this media becomes a part of our childhood, so we have this sentimental value for these like immortalized, you know, like when you see a celebrity and they're like much older than they were, how you remembered them, it's trippy.
It fucks you up
Because you remembered them at that point in time, and that's like this timeless perception, you know? It's crazy, dog.
Isn't it crazy that like kids now know Michael Jordan for being like the crying face meme?
Yeah, it's
that's
insane.
crazy to me, man.
I
Like
know,
that's
man.
that's Mike, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro, it's
That's
wild.
crazy.
But I mean, like, like, it just goes to show how, for example, someone like a Tupac can just be this omnipresent, like, just timeless figure, or like a Bob Marley, you know? Like, I think that Bob Marley, it's arguable that someone could say Bob Marley is like the biggest artist in the world of all time.
I think that's actually a fact. I think that's actually a fact.
You think
He's like
so?
the most recognizable art. I think I've read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's a little trippy. There's a couple contenders. Like some new age people will be like, nah, it's Beyonce. I'm like, hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no, bro. Beyonce.
no.
they're trying to compare Beyonce to Michael Jackson. I'm like, are you
Come
for real,
on, bro? That was another death that was crazy, bro.
Yeah, you know what, Michael? You know what's funny? I was living in Vero Beach when Michael Jackson died, and I was such a fucking punk. Like, not a punk. I was just such a pussy about it. Like, I was working a telemarketer job, and I would ride bike there, and I would ride bike back. And so when Michael Jackson died, I was riding my bike, and like, bro, I got teary eyed. You know?
Yeah.
But I was younger and more impressionable. Like
Right.
about like death hit me harder at that age. Now I'm a little desensitized to it.
Right.
But like at that age, when Michael Jackson died, it was like a huge chunk of like just life went away.
Yeah.
You know?
That's real.
Yeah, bro.
I was living in Cali the first time. I've lived in LA twice, so I was living there the first time. My homeboy from Miami had just moved there, and I was taking him to get his weed license and shit. I took him to the same spot I went to, and we heard it on the radio on the way there and shit. So like when we got to the weed spot or whatever, everybody was talking about it. It was like I kind of experienced it in a communal sense. You know what I mean? Like I was around a lot of people when we heard.
Yo, man, listen, so, I mean, I can keep chopping it up with you, like, you know, for a long-ass time, but we've been talking for more than an hour, man, so I kind of wanted to wrap it up.
Cool.
Like, would you mind telling the people two things? One, kind of like what you're working on at the moment. I know you mentioned your project, and then also where they can find you at.
Cool. I'm on Twitter at Shottie Music. And right now, really, the most immediate thing that's going to come out is Popova Volume 2. So that's at popovaworld.com. That's Popova world.com. And I'm, like, super excited about that, man.
Yeah?
I'm super excited about where that shit goes. And, yeah, that's it. I'm working on some music or whatever. So hopefully by the end of the year, you know, you'll hear some Shottie shit.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
But nah, man, I really appreciate you having me, man. It's actually had a good time, bro.
Yeah,
It's
this was tight, man.
yeah,
I need to get
I
more
fucks with
comfortable chairs, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
But
the
like,
chairs are a little, but you know, it's all good. It's episode 4, right?
Yeah. No, 5.
5.
Yeah, it's episode 5, so I got to do that upgrade. All right, man. So I appreciate you coming through. We're going to wrap this up, all right?
No doubt.
Peace, y'all.
Medianoche.
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 Podcast.
Medianoche.
Podcast.
Medianoche.
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 Podcast.